So hello everybody, thank you for being here. Welcome back to LDN Vegans on YouTube. If you are new here, we are on the case for plant-based and cruelty-free. Very occasionally we do interviews, and today we are doing a kind of QA stroke interview with our very good friend who is Stef from Ethica Magazine. Hello Stef.
Everybody, hi Phil, hi everybody.
Trying to be really upbeat because it's really downtime, isn't it? At the moment, it's quite morbid. We have to try and be upbeat.
Yeah, I think I've been quite up throughout this whole ordeal. I think today's been my worst lockdown day.
Oh, really? Are you finding that you're getting kind of waves of like feeling okay and then feeling not so great?
Absolutely. I have some days when everything's great and I'm grateful for having the time to, spend with my dog, to do Ethica Magazine stuff, to go out and so on. And some days when I get the fear,
Yeah.
and it's sort of, and things don't work and you're not getting answers and so on. And that was today for me.
It's not good. And we should say Polly's not feeling good today. So hello to you, Polly, if you are watching at home. We were hoping to be joined by Polly, but she's not feeling too great. So yes, get well soon. And we'll... Oh, there we go. There's Gaia.
That would be my dog. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I'm a rescue dog. You might have seen her on Ethica Magazine before. She's got a big bark.
She's gorgeous. And you were just saying before we went live, you were saying, because we love animals and we should expect to have dogs barking in the background because Teddy, I'm sure, is going to pipe up at some point. So,
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Also, Phil, can I say, I did say that for this call, I was going to do my roots, and I have.
Yeah.
Gone really dark for some reason, and I also said that I was going to wear a dress, and I also have.
Well, hey. Well, I did say you look fabulous. So yes, I shall repeat that for everyone watching. I just told you just now before we went live. So so today we're going to try and bring you some ideas, some tips, some hacks on how to veganize food. I'm guessing that some people that might have seen Facebook posts and us tweeting, and you very kindly do that as well, might not be vegan. So everyone's welcome. Hopefully we'll try and give you some ideas. I know that Stef, you're brilliant at cooking. I haven't actually sampled anything that you've cooked yet, but I'm sure you're great in the kitchen. You told us all about the food that you've made as well.
Yeah, sometimes. I've definitely had some mishaps here and there, but I enjoy cooking, so I try. Yeah.
So what was the last thing you cooked? What did you have last night, just as an example?
So last night I cooked green beans in a tomato sauce with tempeh.
Nice.
So green beans in a tomato sauce with lots of caramelized onion. It's sort of a bit of a Tuscan recipe, and it's delicious, and you can have it as a side as well. So and last night I added tempeh to it, and it worked really well, full of flavor and super healthy.
See, I really love tempeh. I never used to really like it that much because I wasn't cooking it properly because it's got quite a bitter taste, isn't it? We should explain also that tempeh it's kind of like tofu, isn't it? It's made with soybeans. How would you describe it?
Well, right? I think it's fermented soybeans, and it has a much nuttier flavor than tofu and a completely different consistency as well. It's kind of more granular, harder, and has more flavor to it. But again, like tofu, you need to play around with it and sort of learn how to cook it. And I think it lends itself very well for marinades and in sauces and, being baked with other flavors,
I really like it, and I use it a lot now. I get it in the jars because you can get it in the packets. How do you buy it? Do you buy it in the jar or?
I buy it in packet. So normally I buy one that's sort of kind of flat. It almost looks like a little steak. And that one you need to boil for about 15 minutes before you do whatever you do with it. Bake it, fry it, whatever. But the one I bought yesterday, which is by Yofu, right? That's the brand.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I think so, yeah.
This off, but anyway, by then that'd be my dog again.
Beautiful bark she's got, very tuneful.
Naughty one. So yeah, that one came in a sort of kind of tube, if you want, like a little cylinder, and you could just slice it and cook it directly. You didn't need to boil it. So that was really, really, really fast to do. So I cooked all my vegetables with my tomato sauce, and then I added the tempeh at the end after quickly pan frying it. and I let it absorb all the flavors, and that was that, really.
Sounds really good because you can get it in different flavors, can't you? I like the one with the seaweed in the
Mm,
packet. Well, it's in the obviously in the tempeh.
yeah, absolutely. And you can get a pre-marinated one, which I can't remember. Again, I can't remember the brand, but I tend to get it just from the supermarket, and it's pre-marinated and it's a curry flavor,
Oh yeah.
so that you can just warm up in the oven and then add to whatever you want. It's very, very easy.
I'm really hungry now. I haven't eaten dinner yet. Have you had dinner? You're making my
I
mouth
had a
water.
really late lunch. I had a really late lunch, but I angry ate. I didn't really. I was doing a million things and I was a bit cross. And so I didn't even notice that I ate, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I've done that a few times. Not good for the digestion, especially when you're angry. It's like going to bed on an argument, isn't it? You should never do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So we are obviously inviting people to ask questions live as it's going out. If anyone's watching live, hopefully we've got a few people watching. Come say hello. Tell us where you're watching from, how you're coping with lockdown, being in quarantine, and yeah, I hope you're safe and well, and I hope your family are well as well. So give us a question if there's anything that you need answers to. Hopefully we'll do our best today. But first, before we do that, Steph, do you want to tell us about Ethica Magazine, your brilliant magazine, which is really informative, especially for new vegans too?
Yes, Ethica Magazine. To bring forward brands, vegan brands, cruelty-free brands, and to kind of make vegan life a little bit easier. Um, Now, even from 2.5 years ago, we've come a really long way because I remember 2.5, 3 years ago, just to get some, for example, I was looking for a coat and I was really struggling because I didn't want a winter coat that was made with wool because obviously that's not vegan. And I really struggled, and I thought, well, if I'm vegan and I can't find that, there's going to be a lot of people, vegans or people who want to be vegan, who want to consume, fewer animal products, that are really going to struggle. So I set out to, launch Ethica Magazine and just to really research a lot of brands. And I think now there are more and more and more brands that are out there that are easier to find and so on. But even 3 years ago, it was a lot trickier, especially I think with fashion. Food was still relatively easy, but I think fashion and beauty was quite tricky.
And I think you've still got the audience there because obviously veganism is booming at the moment. Over the last few years, we've seen it, especially with the animal rights marches as well. It's, the attendance figures have just doubled, but you've still got that niche audience that want things that maybe they can't get elsewhere. They can't see other websites or other magazines that are dealing with the same kind of products that you're promoting and the same kind of, lifestyle choices that people are making as well.
Absolutely. And one thing that we wanted to really do at Ethica Magazine was be for everybody. So obviously we're vegan, and but we wanted to be very inclusive. We wanted to be open to vegan curious, or even people who want to start, eating less meat, or perhaps using products that are not tested on animals and so on. So it's really nice when people come up to me and go, now I eat vegan 3 days a week instead of never,
Yeah.
and they might not be vegan, but just starting little by little, showing people that actually it's not more expensive, it's not more difficult, and it's really doable. It's great, and I love it when people tell me that.
Yeah, because I always think that more animals are being saved in the process, even if you are still eating meat. I mean, it's not ideal, obviously, and we don't think that's ideal because that's why we made the choice. But some people, it's different, isn't it? Not everybody's the same. And I think it's good that people are reducing, and they're even conscious about reducing animal products and thinking about their lifestyle choices and what they're buying and what they're buying into. Because I think people are more conscious of it now, which is great.
Absolutely. And, I think most vegans, before becoming vegan, thought that we couldn't be vegan. That, oh, I could never be vegan. I really want, but I could never be vegan. And then you become vegan and you realize actually how easy it is.
Yeah.
Um, so it's helping out a lot of people perhaps want to be vegan, but they don't think they can do it. And I think they're the ones that shouldn't be shamed because they think they can't do it, but actually should be helped.
Absolutely, absolutely, because everyone's got a different situation as well. Not everyone is able to cook. Not everyone wants to buy convenience food. Not everybody's into burgers and hot dogs like I am. But yeah, I suppose there's a different type of vegan. There's a vegan that wants to do it for health reasons, and one that wants to do it just for the animals, or both.
Absolutely, yes, yeah.
So should we have a look at some of these questions?
Yes.
Are you ready to get the grey matter working?
I am, yeah.
So let's go for the first one. Okay, so can you hear Teddy, by the way?
I can hear Teddy, yeah. I'm surprised the guy hasn't started barking as well, because she's here with me. Meet those two.
Okay, right. So I was hoping to get the questions on the screen for some reason. Oh, hold on one second. Why is that not working? Oh, it's not working. Let me just read them here. So the first one is from Stuart in Portsmouth, who asks about bangers and mash. He wants to know a vegan version of bangers and mash. Which sausages would work best, and how can I get a good gravy to pour on top?
So we had a little chat about sausages the other day, didn't we?
We did. I love sausages. I love sausages and mash, actually. It's my favourite, bangers and mash.
I like them too, yeah.
Hi to Martin, by the way, who's just joined us.
Hi, Martin.
So what would you recommend, Steph? Sausages-wise, what are your favourites?
I really like the Meatless Company, the Meatless Farm Co. I really like the mince, and I really like the sausages. I also really like tofurkey sausages. I think if you want a dense sausage, tofurkey are very good for that as well.
I can't eat those because they give me stomachache. But you're right, they're very dense sausages. They're really tasty. I'd love to eat them, but I just can't. I have problems afterwards, stomach cramps.
They're a hardcore sausage, but I really like them. And I mean, I think Linda McCartney, there's a sage and onion, I think, that they do, which is very good, and a vegan chorizo, which is also, and peppers and red peppers, which is also very tasty. So I think those are very good. Definitely some of my favorite sausages, I'd say.
Yeah, we were talking about the sausages in the previous video we did, which I think you were watching at home, and Linda McCartney used to come out on top, but I think now it's Plant Chef that Plant Chef, the Tesco sausages, which are really good, and they're really cheap as well. They're quite meaty. From what I remember meat to taste like, it's been a while since I've eaten meat, since I was really young. But yeah, quite realistic.
Yeah, and the Sainsbury's, the shroom ones as well are quite nice. I have a couple of friends who are not vegan, vegetarian, and they love them, for example. So those are quite nice as well. I like those too.
And what about the gravy? Would you buy a gravy that's ready made, like in a tub, or would you maybe a packet, or would you go and make one yourself at home?
You know what? I used to occasionally do it, and then I looked at the ingredients and I realized those granules are just full of rubbish.
Oh yeah.
So I just stopped doing it. And I think you can do a really simple one yourself, and just to thicken it, you can just add a little bit of corn flour. And that way, you look at some basic ingredients, you just look at, some vegan, vegetarian stock, some onions, drop of white wine or red wine, depending. Probably red actually will work better.
Yeah.
And you can make a great stock just with a few herbs, a few simple ingredients, reduce it down, add a little bit of corn flour for thickness, and Bob's your uncle.
That's a really good idea. And also Marmite. I know a lot of vegans don't want to buy Marmite because it's because the overhead, the umbrella company above is Unilever, isn't it? Who have tested on animals in the past. I don't know whether they still do. I think they still do. But for some reason, for a lot of vegans, that's not a product that they would buy. But Nooch, I guess, as well, nutritional yeast.
Absolutely, that too. Yes, I think. Even miso. You could add a little bit of miso.
I love miso.
Yeah, I love miso too, and you only need a tiny bit. So actually, if you want to save money, if you want, to cut your spending, miso is great because it keeps in the fridge for a very long time. For say gravy for 2-3 people, you would use maybe a teaspoon, tiny bit more. So it really goes a long way and has a real depth of flavor.
Great.
Miso,
miso's a really rich umami flavor, isn't it? Which a lot of vegans crave, that real rich flavor. It's like a kind of, miso. It's like a soy density, isn't it? That you crave. I crave all the time.
Absolutely. And you mentioned soy. So if you can't find miso, you can add a really good soy sauce. Like Kikkoman, I think, is one of the best, if not the best. Really rich soy sauce, deep in flavor, and you get yourself a really nice gravy.
Yeah, and you mentioned red wine. That's always the best option. I add
Yeah.
that to stocks as well and soups, which is really
Yeah.
good. And it's not for the alcohol reason, because obviously that just disappears, doesn't it, when you cook that?
Yeah.
Right,
You can use it.
yeah. So we got a question from Martin Taylor, who's in the chat room watching live at the moment. How can I make a vegan? Oh, hang on, let me just move that because I can't see the text. How can I make a vegan cream cheese? I don't know if you can read that on the screen at the moment, but there he is. How can I make a vegan cream cheese?
Oh, yeah.
Almonds, I would say. Almonds?
Sorry. Almonds?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, cashews as well. I did try and make it once. It wasn't very successful.
So how do you do it? Do you use lemon juice and put it through what do they call it? Muslin. Is it muslin?
Yeah, or you can use probiotics as well. If you buy some probiotics, maybe for your stomach, whatever. Obviously vegan ones, and you can actually add. You need to look at the exact recipe, but you can add a capsule or two, and that basically will kick off the sort of fermentation of it. I made cashew cheese only once, and it was a disaster. However,
you got to try though, haven't you?
Yeah, you got to try. I didn't soak the cashew nuts for long enough. I don't think I strained them well enough either. But I think pretty much with all kinds of nuts, you can make cheese.
So was it wrong because of the consistency, or was it the flavour? Because I would imagine that. I mean, I wouldn't mind that anyway. If the consistency was maybe a bit more nutty than a cream cheese would be, that wouldn't bother me.
Yeah, it was in fact, I ate it.
There we go. Result winning at life.
So the flavor was nice. It was the consistency because I didn't soak the nuts long enough. I think I only soaked them overnight, maybe like 12 hours. And then I spoke to a friend of mine who's very good in the kitchen, and she's vegan. And she actually soaks them for something like 24, 48 hours just to make sure that they're as creamy as they possibly can. And then she also uses, the water that you strain off. She actually uses it as a milk.
Excellent.
So all the bits of the nut.
I've still yet to make a cheese at home, and also seitan as well, which for people that don't know is a protein, very high protein sauce made with wheat. You make it with, it's wheat gluten, isn't it? And is it wheat gluten and flour? I can't remember. You make it just water, isn't it? It's just 2 ingredients.
Yeah, it's wheat gluten, and you need to add a little bit of flour. So my partner makes seitan really well, and he follows a recipe by Avant-Garde Vegan. And it is really good. So in this particular recipe, he adds lots of flavoring, but you don't have to. You can do that at the end. You can do that when you cook it. And he always uses a little bit of gram flour, which is chickpea flour.
Oh, yeah, I love that stuff.
And that's because otherwise gluten can be a little bit too chewy, a bit gluey, so you add a little bit, but it's really not very much. I think he only adds 1 cup for 6 steaks. So it's really not very much at all.
And I guess it takes a while. Does it take a couple of hours to make?
It does take a while, yeah, and you need some strength because you really need to knead it and to punch it. You actually need to punch it. So it takes quite a while, and then you have to boil it for a little while as well. But the steaks keep a long time in the fridge or the freezer, so you can do a batch, and when you make it yourself, it's a lot cheaper because seitan can still be quite expensive, compared to tofu, for example, or but it's a lot cheaper if you make it yourself. So you need to get some wheat gluten, or you can get some wheat flour, which of course there's none at the moment in supermarkets, but in a normal situation. And then you can actually get the wheat gluten out of that, which of course is a bit more laborious, but you can do that too.
I love the idea of you using it as a punch bag, especially if you've had an argument with somebody. You could really take it out on the seitan.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's when you should make Satan after you've had an argument with somebody.
Brilliant. There's a tip. There's another tip, not necessarily for foodies. Right, next one. Claire in London. I want to do a vegan BLT. Is such a thing possible? It is. I would say, well, if you want to buy those vegan rashers, you can go out and buy those vegan bacon. I mean, a lot of them aren't great. They're quite dry, I find, when you fry them. But I don't know if you've ever made one. Have you made vegan bacon yourself? Oh, you can do it with coconut and liquid smoke, I guess. But that's not really like rinds of bacon. That's more just the taste, isn't it? I suppose.
Yeah, no, I've tried it with carrot as well, like slithers of carrot. But the texture is very different because I've tried sort of vegan salmon made with carrots, but I'm not sold. I'm not sold. So I think probably the best option is to buy some vegan bacon. And you can add, if it's too light in flavor, you could add some liquid smoke, for example, if you wanted a little punchier.
Yeah, there are some really good brands. I think, is it this, that one of the most recent vegan bacon brands, I think came out maybe a year or two ago. I think they're called This. I might be thinking of something else, but they're meant to be very good. I haven't tried those, but if you want that realistic bacon look and flavour.
Yeah, and Vivera have just started doing them as well. So they're kind of more like very small strips. But I have to say they're the most bacony one that I've ever tried. But I have to say that, I mean, I haven't eaten meat since I was 13, but I never liked bacon. I'm probably the only. I've never particularly liked bacon, so I bought these little strips actually more to sort of kind of flavor sauces. So if I do it in a sort of sofrito, like as a base, and then I add it to a sauce, then it adds a lot of flavor. But it's a more bacon-like one, the Vivera one that I've ever tried.
It's that rich, salty flavour, isn't it? I guess with bacon, you need to try and find an equivalent of if you want that intensity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, Martin again. I don't know how to pronounce this, but what do you guys think of konjac? I was thinking cognac, but that's obviously something different. That's why I'm thinking about it. Super low carb noodles made from konjac flour, or is it cognac flour?
I eat them regularly. I eat konjac noodles or pasta, whatever, regularly because I try and eat low carb as much as I possibly can. I really, really like it. Really like it, but it is definitely a little bit different from pasta. It doesn't absorb the flavor quite as well. So I think perhaps it is a bit of an acquired taste, but I think if you want to do low carb but you crave pasta, then konjac is really good. I think it works better in actual pasta than I've tried the konjac rice, and that tasted a bit plasticky. But the pasta I like.
Yeah, I've tried a couple of the noodles, which I quite liked. What else am I thinking of? Right, I guess rice noodles wouldn't be low carb. I was just trying to think of a low carb substitute that's something similar.
Yeah, well, they do soy noodles as well, don't they? They do soy noodles because I know that they do chickpea noodles and lentil noodles and so on. But they're not actually that low carb. I mean, they're a little bit more low carb or lower carb than pasta, but they're not that low carb. But you can find, like in health food shops, you can find soy pasta as well, which I think it has something like 15 to 20 grams of carbs per 100 grams. So
Okay.
compared to pasta, it's a lot lower in carbs. Yeah.
Martin was saying it stinks a bit. Is that
It
konjac
does.
flour?
Yeah, yeah. You need to rinse it well, Martin. You need to rinse it well. But I agree, it does have an odd smell.
So next question. Thank you, Martin, by the way, for the questions. Keep them coming. We have some others that were sent in earlier. Helen in Brighton wants a full British breakfast, but doesn't want to use any animal products. I'm just thinking of sausages, but I suppose there are many different types of that traditional fry up, if you like. Some people would use burgers, maybe not for breakfast, but hash browns, I guess you have to check if you're buying those that then they don't have animal oil, animal fat in them. But yeah, I think you can get loads of equivalents, can't you, that are ready made if you don't want to make your own.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, you could try that bacon that we were talking
Yeah.
about. You could make the hash browns yourself, really. I mean, that's not that difficult to make, with your leftover potatoes and what have you. And
But
then, of course, your tomatoes, mushrooms, your beans.
Yeah, that's all vegan anyway. Oh, obviously, depending on the oil that you use, but baked beans, fried bread, mushrooms, tomatoes.
Yeah, yeah, and no, there's some really good sausages. Actually, I think Linda McCartney are probably the best breakfast sausage out of all of them.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, and I guess for the egg replacer, if you were wanting to replace egg, you could use tofu scramble for like a scrambled egg
Yeah,
equivalent.
yeah. Or there is that egg replacer where you can make omelets with it, and it actually comes in an egg carton. You can find it somewhere like Holland and Barrett, and it's I've tried it. And I made an omelette with it, and it was like an egg omelette. In fact, I don't like it because I never liked eggs even before being vegan. But it is incredibly eggy, and you can definitely make an omelette. Again, the only thing is that for a small bag, you will pay quite a lot of money. It'll cost you about 10 times as much as eggs do. Yeah.
Depends how badly you
But
want that, I suppose, doesn't it?
yeah, but I think tofu lends itself really well to a scramble, you
Yeah,
know.
I would agree.
Add
I
some,
really like it. I'm not too keen on because a lot of people use that the runny tofu. What's that called? That's silken tofu, isn't it? Instead of
yeah.
the blocks.
Yeah, I know. I think you need to use hard tofu. Because you're ready, you want it to be, you don't want all the moisture. What I do normally, I actually mash it with my hands in a colander first, so I get most of the water out. And with your hands, these are good tools. You really scramble it really well, and then I cook some vegetables in a pan. Um, in the meantime, I leave the tofu to marinate with salt, pepper, maybe a little bit of chili, lots of basil. I love basil, lots of fresh basil. In the meantime, I cook the vegetables. When the vegetables are cooked well, I turn the heat up so the pan's really hot, and then I scramble the tofu, and then it gets really nice and brown, and all the water evaporates, and that works really well. I can even add some lentils to it, and it gives you that real scrambly texture.
Amazing. Did you say you use turmeric?
Or you can use that as well. I tend to use paprika in it, actually, mostly, yeah. I love turmeric, but it stains everything.
Yeah, that's true. Chopping boards. It's just ruined, isn't it, when you use turmeric? We have not a question, but a top tip from the comedian Carl Donnelly, who we interviewed on this channel a few months back. I think it was for Veganuary, because he is a Veganuary ambassador as well. He says, and this is great, my new favourite thing is if I'm making smashed avocado, I add some chopped Violife feta, which is the vegan cheese, in it. And it's so tasty. That would be my current tip for any vegans missing feta on their brunches.
Very nice tip. I've never tried that. Yeah, I can see why it'd work. Very nice. Thank you.
Yeah. We've got somebody asking about meat-like burgers. Phil in Islington. What's the best meat-like burger? There are loads of them now as well, really realistic ones.
Yeah. I mean, we went together to the launch of the Oomph one last year. It was summer last year,
Yeah, that was
almost.
great.
And that's a really, so the Oomph burger is very good, and I think it's available from Asda, I believe. It is Asda. Also, with the Quorn, the ultimate burger, I think it's really good.
There are loads of good ones, and we've been lucky, like you say, we've been lucky enough to try those out. There's some previous videos that we've got in our playlist, so check out the videos to those. Martin, again, what is the best vegan butter alternative? I love the flavour of butter. I would say Flora Butterly is really good, or there's one that's very similar to butter, which
Hands down.
is, I am trying to think what it's called. It's the Vegan Block. They call it Vegan Block if you buy it in the paper wrapper, but if you buy it in the plastic tub, it's by, I can't think of the brand. You might know, Steph. It's Vegan Block. Naturally.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Naturli. That's the best, easily the best butter replace. I mean, that's very similar to me, what I remember butter to be like.
Yeah. But I agree with you, Flora, all the Butterly and so on. I think Flora have done really well. I've actually tried quite a few vegan butters, and I have to say that I have been disappointed in about 90% of them. But then Naturally and Flora are the best. And, Flora is very, very affordable, just over £1, £1.09, something like that. We use it all the time at home.
Because I was just thinking, because somebody's asked about chicken curry or something that would be similar if you're veganizing to make a vegan chicken curry. You don't always have to use like TVP or the soy products to get that meaty flavor or texture. I guess if you want that, you would. But I would suggest using vegetables, because we kind of forget that vegetables are so great in something like a curry. I don't think you really need like a meat texture unless you want that.
I completely agree. And
because they're so colourful as well, aren't they?
Absolutely, yeah. And in fact, I have, one of my favorite recipes. I absolutely love aubergines, which we were talking about the other day as well. And I remember Martin, if you're listening, Martin, watching rather, that you were asking how we cook aubergines. Now, as you mentioned the other week, I think the trick with aubergines is to cook them thoroughly. You have to cook them through. Yeah. They need to become quite, and it's a very meaty vegetable. And I think it lends itself very well to lots of bakes and lots of curries, and it can replace meat in that sense. Or again, one for you again, Martin, if you like lasagna, for example, but you want to stay low carb, I do a sort of lasagna, but I do it with butternut squash and aubergine layers, with a tofu cream with garlic and lemon in between. And it's healthy, nutritious, really filling, and low carb. And you don't need to use any meat substitute either. It's just vegetables.
That sounds amazing. And also that's a really good tip for people that are wanting a vegan mac and cheese, because if you add butternut, obviously you cook it down and you pulse it and you blend it into the sauce. You make a nice sauce with, I don't know, Oatly cream or something like a non-dairy cream, and you add salt and pepper and maybe some mustard. And that actually is, although, if you add some nutritional yeast, it adds that cheesy flavor, but it's got the right color and the right consistency for like a nice cheese sauce.
Yeah, absolutely. And even healthier. It's even healthier.
So Martin says, yum, lasagna sounds great.
I've been meaning to post a recipe on Ethica Magazine for a while, and I just haven't. I'm a bad editor.
There we go. There's one person who will definitely appreciate that. Who's watching.
I will post it, Martin. This is my promise to you. I will post it.
And Martin's also asking where we can buy that butter as well. The Tesco, the Flora Butterly, you can pretty much get that anywhere. But the Naturally, I think you get in Waitrose and online, maybe.
I think. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think I used to get it from Ocado, I think so. I agree. Yeah, but Flora, even the non-butterly one, because I think now all Flora is plant-based, isn't it?
I think it is. Yeah, I don't think it used to be, did it?
No, it didn't. And then I think they became all plant-based last summer, I think. But even the non-buttery one is still very buttery. My corner shop stocks it.
Yeah. We had a Twitter poll actually on our Twitter profile, just so you know, if you're watching and you're new to London Vegans, we are twitter.com/London, is it _? No, London Vegans, so that's LDN Vegans. And we had a poll just yesterday just to find out what people are requesting the most, which I thought was quite interesting. If I can find it, bear with me. So what veganized dish do you want tips and hints for the most? Roast dinner came out bottom, 16% of the votes. Then it was omelette, then mac and cheese, but up there with 32% of the votes was tofu and chips, or tofu and chips, or fish and chips, equivalent, obviously. Have you made that? Because you can make a really great tofu and chips with nori, the seaweed strips.
I haven't, but again, Adam, my partner, has, and he's made a really good one. Now, there are several different recipes for tofu and chips. I think the most common one is literally just slices of tofu wrapped in seaweed and then deep fried in butter. Adam made one with tofu. It was sort of kind of like mashed tofu and oats, which I think actually had a better texture. And that came out really well. I can't remember where he found the recipe. It might even be Avant-Garde Vegan, because he loves Avant-Garde Vegan.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And then I've tried the banana blossom one as well.
Yeah, I've not tried that yet.
I'm not sold on it. It's a bit too slimy for me.
So banana blossom, you get that in tins, am I right? Is it like what's the fruit that's similar to banana? I can't think what it's like. Caribbean banana, plantain.
Plantain, yeah, yeah. But because it's a blossom, so it looks a little. I tell you what, it looks. It's quite viscous, and it looks a little when it's cooked. Um, it looks a little bit like kind of mackerel.
Oh, okay.
If anybody can remember mackerel, it looks a little bit like that. But for me, the texture is a bit too wet. It's not quite there.
Interesting. I might just check it out because
But
I get intrigued by all these foods that I haven't tried. It's like a couple of years ago, I hadn't tried, up until a couple of years ago, I hadn't tried jackfruit either, which you can,
oh yeah.
I mean, you can buy that fresh from certain stores, but you get it in tins for convenience. But I hadn't tried it up until that point. I mean, there's not really any flavour. You have to marinate it. I guess with a lot of things, you have to do that as well.
Yes, I mean, I don't mind jackfruit, but I don't love it either.
Yeah,
I don't like it either, yeah.
take it or leave it.
Yeah, it's a bit like that for
Yeah.
me.
Um,
Oh, yeah.
and what about omelettes? Because I've tried an omelette with gram flour. You mentioned that earlier, which is chickpea
Mm.
flour. And they come out really beautiful, actually. They're quite light. So if you want that heavy omelette, maybe not go for gram flour. But I don't know, what would you use as like the egg replacer?
I have made omelette with tofu, actually silken tofu, and almond flour.
Oh, okay.
So kind of whizzed everything up together. So you need to put quite a little bit of almond flour because obviously it has to hold it together. And then whatever flavoring you want in it, again, herbs, some vegetables, and so on. And then you just cook it like an omelette. I mean, I often break them, I have to be honest, depending on how much almond flour I put in it. But they actually come out quite nicely. Yeah.
So great. I think we've pretty much answered all the questions. Hopefully, everybody at home has enjoyed this and found it useful. Thank you so much for coming on, Steph. It's so good to see you. And obviously, we're in touch on Facebook and stuff, but it's been a while since you've been on our video because I think the last one was maybe a year ago, wasn't it? When we went out to one of these events, I think was the last one.
I think that, yeah, I think yeah, last summer, I think. Yeah, it has been a while, and it's probably gonna be a while now. I
Yeah.
mean, we're actually in the same room.
We can dream of the next time that we go to one of these events or just be public and just see each other and hug each other because a
Yeah,
lot of people are missing that at the moment, aren't they?
yeah, absolutely. I'm definitely missing seeing people in real life.
So what's happening with Ethica Magazine? If you want to check it out, by the way, online, it's ethicamagazine.com, all over the socials too. You know where to find Ethica Magazine if you just Google it as well. Are you going to be busy over the next few weeks? How has this pandemic affected you as a magazine, online magazine?
Well, so I actually I was working towards expanding our travel section just before the pandemic. So
Typical.
happening right now. Um, I've actually held back a little bit on products. I mean, I was already working on a recycled and upcycled jewelry brand piece, which we published a couple of weeks ago. I was already working on it, and I really loved the whole old skateboards. So we did publish that piece, but I'm actually holding off a little bit on products. So one of my writers, one Ethica Magazine writers, she's brilliant. Her name is Lauren Wigley. She just did a piece for us on 10 places that are still delivering. So it's a mix of the mostly food places like Deliveroo, say, where there's lots of vegan choices and so on, and also other places like Lush. They actually deliver. You can do a telephone order if you need toiletries and so on. So I kind of veered more on the practical, I think, during the pandemic rather than buying guide or shopping guides. So yes, so kind of more on the practical. And the next thing I have to do, of course, is publish that recipe for Martin and anybody who's
Yes.
interested. lasagna without the pasta.
You heard it here first.
Yeah, I promise.
Amazing. Well, listen, I wish you all the best, Steph, and it's so good to chat to you. Thank you so much for coming on. Hopefully we can do this again, because I've got this software now where we can bring, I think it's up to 6 people on at the same time. So maybe we can get Polly, we can get Vin, yourself. It'll be a party. It'll be like a house party.
That'd be fantastic. We can do a vegan house party.
Yeah,
I love that.
definitely.
Vegan.
We'll speak to you soon, and thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Thank you for your questions, and we'll continue to do this. If you like this, we'll do more. Maybe another Q&A with a different theme. I have to say, also, hats off to you, Steph, because you suggested this theme too. So thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.
Veganising is such a good thing, because a lot of vegans are quite sniffy about. No, not vegans, but people that maybe meat eaters. Or, we always hear people saying to vegans, why would you want something to taste and look like meat? And the crux of it is that there are no dead animals involved in the process. So that's why we want, we still like the taste. Some people like the taste of meat. It's just they don't want to eat animals.
Absolutely. And it's also for convenience as well. And also when I get told that, I always say back, yes, but do you think a chicken looks like a little cutlet? That is not the shape of chicken. So you're already making that choice yourself, and it's the same thing. It doesn't look like an animal. So
that's very true.
Yeah,
it's very true. So thanks again, Steph. It's good to see you, and stay safe and look after yourself, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Thank you for having me, Phil. All the best. Thanks everybody for watching.
See you soon. Bye everyone.